hear from you, your thoughts and ideas so that we can even make it better. So, first of all, a little bit of review. Not to go in detail, but we're going to, on the parking lot, we're going to rework that parking lot in terms of some of the items that are broke, cracked, and need to be redone. We're going to add some parking stalls that are handicap accessible, that are closer, so it helps some of our people with mobility issues. The other item we're going to do is we're going to reconfigure the office space so that we can have our restrooms compliant, that we have a room that is a conference room that will serve many purposes for us. And so again, that'll be right over here, including one of the areas is an overflow. And so again, we're still working with trying to get that so it has visibility into the sanctuary, and also a very nice place for people for meetings. We talked about reworking this room a little bit for storage, as again, I think it's real appropriate that we actually meet in here. And we did kind of move some things around so there's room for chairs. But our plan would be to put this into storage units. And again, one of the things that we have heard when we started this was, don't use this room, don't take space. And we believe we're not taking space by consolidating this nicely into a unit. We actually create more space. And if there was an opportunity that we had a larger event, because of the doorways being opened into the hallway, will be much easier to use the library and the hallway also. So if we have an event, we believe we can actually have more individuals attend, not less. So again, and that's other part of it is just opening up these doorways. We talked about changing the floor covering throughout most of the church. Again, as you walk through and you see areas in front of the sanctuaries that have tears, it's just an appearance thing, okay? And again, talked about using polished concrete under the pews within the church, and are hoping that improves the sound and that it's easier for us to maintain if people do happen to spill things. We talked about a new sign on the corner that will help us in terms of bringing in prospective people, but also informing our members of things that are going on within the church. Another way of communicating. I think I've read somewhere that the more ways you can develop, the better you are. So, I believe...
I had a couple of updates.
Yes.
From some of the questions.
Thank you.
From last week. So, I know we had, thinking about the monument that the new sign would go on, about the integrity of that monument. And in Buildings and Grounds, we talked about that. And Frank and Herb were going to do some checking with gentlemen they know that are, professionals in the brickwork and tuck pointing and that kind of thing, to have them come take a look, just to verify. I mean, the general consensus for us in Buildings and Grounds, of course, our unprofessional opinion, but we got some experience here. Our general opinion was those were good, but let's go ahead and have somebody that does this for a living come take a look and verify for us. So that's coming. We also had, Rich has somebody coming with doing a fire inspection for the building. And I'm going to be included with that, and we're going to talk about the doors, and could we swing the doors in or not, and just kind of talking about that if we have other options that we can look at. So that's yet to come. And then one of the other questions we had on here was talking about this room thinking about the carpet squares and chairs and tables and moving chairs around and that kind of thing. And Larry had a conversation with Brian from Align regarding those carpet squares and said, that's not a concern. The adhesive on those carpet squares is very heavy-duty commercial type adhesive. That's not a concern. And even in our conversation this morning, Darcy was saying there at GMT, they had put in carpet squares in 2004 and haven't seen anything like that in that time while those have been in. So there's just some updates from last week.
Excellent, excellent. So then on to the new stuff. Oh, and he hits the wrong button. So we're going to change the multi-purpose room. And again, truly excited about this. One of the items, if it wasn't confusing, we would have had our meeting there for the same idea. That when you walk in, that I think it's this whole wall here, right? Doesn't
Yep.
have chairs all along there. You know, we've got these nice windows, but they're blocked because of all the stuff in that room. And so we have these right here. They're not closets because they're deeper, they're very large. We're going to add a similar unit up here. And our hope is, again, to put all of the chairs and items in there. With time, we hope that we have things organized so that for like Wednesday evenings, there are places you just pull out, and for this event, you take this item out and move it into the rooms. And so again, it's just more organized and it has its place. This also will be essentially reworked for smaller groups when we have weddings or funerals. It can be sort of disenchanting when you have a funeral and we have 20 people and they're in the large sanctuary and it just doesn't feel very good. So we're going to rework this room for that. And again, that has to do a lot with lightings, changing the lighting of the room so it isn't just mass fluorescent. We'll have some can lightings. We're also going to have a custom-built cabinet. And this cabinet will, when closed, you'll see just a nice wood structure. But when it's opened up, then you can see how we can have the ceremonies right there. And so again, one of the more exciting times, again, there were a few, when we had committee meetings and discussing different things, and we had talked about this, and again, it's definitely not my area of expertise at all, and talked about different ideas and things to include and not, and of course, Pastor had a lot to add into that, and somewhere along the way, I asked the group about design and build and all that, and one of our committee members says, we can do that. We can build that. And so it's really exciting to have, here's something that Redeemer people are going to build instead of putting out to a contractor. And so again, I cherish the gifts that we have within our congregation, because that isn't one of mine. It is not. Also, you can see down in the corner here, what we're going to do is we're going to have different kind of window treatment. Because we talked about, it's really nice to have these windows to let the natural light in, but we have shades that are pulled most of the time in that room. And so again, it just doesn't get to be utilized. And so we're hopeful that we can have, and these are just, these are different examples, not what we're necessarily proposing, but again, it gives you an idea that we can have shades up there that let some light in, but at the same token, you can't see in. I think we've heard that on occasion some of the different groups will, for wedding parties, might have used that for changing. And so you want to be able to not look straight into it. So again, it's just neat. And that'll also help us to use the courtyard. And again, so one of the items we're proposing is shading for the courtyard area. And this is just showing again some different examples, but we'll come in and we'll be able to use space within the church, not add on, build over there, here. This space that we already have, and we'll just be able to use it a lot better because it gets so warm in there. And so, again, if we can just create these shaded areas. So, again, truly excited about this. I think this is one of those things where, you know, everybody in the committee kind of had a moment. You know, it's like, yes, why didn't we use this in the past more? And again, this is a big reason. So, so again, these are the items that we have included in our campaign. And again, it's kind of exciting that we started really wide. And again, I mentioned earlier, the gymnasium was eliminated pretty quickly because of cost. There were other items that were eliminated, and I think again, this group has really been very, very cost effective, trying to make sure that we get some collection of projects that can benefit our church, can make our church more appealing, and yet still not have it be a huge cost item for us. Are there any questions?
Yes, go back to the.
Yes. Can I go
The
back?
built-in altar thing. Is that going to be on the east wall between the windows, or is that going to be on the north or south end? What are we
South
going?
wall. South wall. So here's the hallway,
Yeah.
and it's that blue rock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin put that in there very nicely, I thought. Yes, yes. So again, and then the idea is that we can set up chairs this way within the room for whether it's a funeral. The other thing that's not drawn on this, and we've talked, and it's just because sometimes we talk about things, and this door, we think it's this door, will have to be wider. Some of the caskets are too big to get through a standard door, so we'll have to make an adjustment there so that it can get through. Other questions? So when we started, I'm sorry, give me just a second. When we started, Kevin said you went last week for like 2.5 hours. and I said, I think it's going to be about 20 or 30 minutes. So I'm not sure. What did he read a book or something? Wow. Excuse me.
Just a comment and a question. I happened to be here when I think the architects were, one of them was going through it first time or something. And he mentioned these windows and how impressive they were, and I looked at them so much that I don't realize that. Has that thought come in? He was looking at the entrances to the room.
Right.
Going opposite these windows.
Right. And we heard that from the architects, that those are very impressive, very nice. So, but putting them over here?
No.
Where?
No, I'm just commenting.
Oh.
that, yeah.
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
Interesting that
Yeah.
they see that differently.
And of course, we did not want the storage unit on this end to come to that window at all, because again, it's that we didn't want that at all.
I just wanted to add, Elaine, one of the window treatment ideas is to copy the stained glass here and make it a laminate that would cover one of the windows, so that we would end up mimicking,
Yep.
mirroring what we have in the old sanctuary.
Yeah,
So that the windows over there would look a lot
Consistent.
like this.
And then a question,
Across the courtyard.
the putting a roof over the courtyard sounds neat because of heat. Any thought to fans out there, or?
good question.
I've seen tents
Yep.
with fans up there.
Yep. Good question. I don't think that we know.
Can't afford it.
Baby steps, I believe, you know, let's at least, because certainly getting the canopies in will make a difference. And let's see to how, you know, what does that do for that area? Is there more needed down the road? Maybe, and we'll look at that then.
And these are heavy duty, like tent almost materials. So again, we can theoretically take them down in the winter times because they won't hold the snow very well. You know.
Liturgical colors.
Yes, yes, yes,
I couldn't hear your comment about taking them down or not.
Probably take them down in the winter time because I just don't believe that they'll hold snow very well at all. Yeah, that weight. And so I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll last longer. Other questions? I am really, you know, I could figure out some jokes or stuff so it lasts for another, 30, 40 minutes, but. Heavens, really?
I don't know.
He's complete.
Just a talker.
He's complete. We are, again, regularly meeting with the architects, talking with them. Some of it has to do with questions that people come up with. And like I say, it's truly trying to get this project better and better and better with input and ideas that people have. Other questions?
I think just a quick comment I had from last Wednesday night, you know, Frank and Mike and Paula and Audra Cherry all stopped in and talked, and I definitely see that, given the idea that this does pass, as I hope it does, that, you know, being able to use Frank's experience, Mike's experience when it comes to parking lot, when it comes to getting more specifics for the office area, I see that as a great benefit to be able to use their knowledge, their experience, to make sure that we're covering all our bases when we get those more specifics for those projects set up. So by all means, we'll be meeting again Wednesday night. So if something else comes up that you thought of, we'll be here.
Why is it today when I heard measure twice, cut once, I thought of one person?
It happens.
I was on a roof when I was a Lion member one time, and we had laid the shingles not quite right, and Mike come up, he says, rip them off. Rip them off. Not gonna be it's gotta be right. Yes.
Can you clarify what you meant about these doors? Like, are they gonna be twice as big as they are? Or are we opening in all of them? I didn't quite understand.
Yes. They're gonna be twice as big, and we believe we can go up to 7 foot, so they'll be a little taller too, without really hitting anything on either side, so, yes.
That door, and then nothing.
No,
Not
these
making
two,
another opening.
these two. Yeah, so again, it just increases that flow between.
Pastor, talking about over there and respond to Elaine's comment, are you actually thinking of changing those windows on that side?
Not the windows, it's a treatment.
I was talking,
On
I was
the-
talking about the multi-purpose room across the courtyard.
In the, where we quilt.
Yeah, here you go.
This window,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
faces the
I was
court.
talking about these right here.
no, no,
You're doing it with those, are we?
no, no, no. So no, it's just the ones that face from the multipurpose room. Questions?
You said earlier that you're gonna have a tuck pointing company. Which company is that?
There's a couple of companies, two different ones that we talked about. I know Frank and Mike know better than I about that, so I was gonna leave that up to them.
Oh, okay.
I'm confused when you said you wanna make this area storage and yet you wanna keep these windows. How does that work?
So the storage unit will come out and we'll have doors, and so these racks that have tables and chairs,
We could
stack them up together.
jump into last week's
I
PowerPoint.
was just gonna say, do you have the slides?
I do.
Yeah, sorry, we were gone.
And it's a good thing that Kevin's here. I would do this drawing up here. And again, this is one of those things, yeah, there it is right down
So there was.
Yep.
Look at that.
So this was what we talked about last week with, looking at the number of devices we have that hold chairs and tables, that we can have 2 of the rack on the left and 2 of the rack on the right and get all of this stuff up off the floor.
And still widen this
And,
door.
and get them inside,
Yeah, it's still
Cabinets.
inside.
yeah.
Yep.
So if you're widening the doors, you're gonna do something with this stuff too?
Yes.
Yes.
Not sure what.
Just thought I'd ask. Just go inside the door.
Technology is amazing. I was talking with Brian from the architectural firm on Thursday, and I asked him about that unit. And basically, we had counted up the chairs and the tables, and just based off of, there was units he was proposing that had so many tables and so many chairs. And it didn't seem like he had enough chairs. And so he says, well, just a second. He pulls it up, and he took a picture, and he counted the chairs.
Oh, jeez.
He says, you have 204 chairs in this picture. And it's just like, wow. He says, you're right, we've accounted for 168 of them, but, and so we'll go back and we'll get one of those stands that has just chairs. And so again, it's just, to me, it's just amazing what they can do. Because they can maps of the church, and so one of the things we talked about is, as long as we're doing carpeting, that we would do the hallway right on the other side of the multi-purpose room, between that and classrooms. And so again, we're talking, and he pulls it up and he says, this is how many square feet that is, and this is how much this would add dollar-wise. It's just like, wow. We used to have to go up and measure it like many times to get that number, and he just got it all on the computer. It's just amazing.
Earlier, you talked about this cross, would that go over in this section, or?
That is a great question that we haven't answered. Where does the cross go? Because again, we understand it's an important item for our church, and we don't want to cut it up and make souvenirs. Bad joke, sorry. But put it somewhere, and we have to figure that out. Appropriate, right. And we will.
Be kind of neat.
Yes.
So on those storage cabinets in here, it
Yep.
looks like the doors open at the ends versus on the front side. So you gotta pull everything out through that little.
Right.
Versus.
Right. I believe that's the case.
Well, it's a matter of prioritizing
Right.
when you put in front, when you put in back.
Yeah.
And part of it is wanting not this side to have doors because they're just not as attractive. We can make this wood look nice, whereas the other side of the door coming into it. So, yeah, maybe a tad cumbersome, but still. And that's the other thing I talked with him Thursday, was trying to make that unit, 8, 12 inches wider, because they have it just just, I think it's like 2 inches wider than the cart. And so again, it was just gonna be, what I thought, difficult to get in and out.
Yeah.
And so they said, not a big deal, because again, we're really not coming over very far, from the wall. So again, another 8 inches is not a big deal. Will help.
Turn to get in is gonna be a problem.
Yeah, it is. You gotta get it just right.
So are you looking at these cabinets being like 8 foot tall rather than going to the ceiling?
So that they don't go to the ceiling, but I can't remember if they're how tall they are.
What if we went to the ceiling and then the cross could just be put on one of these walls?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a maybe.
One of the things we talked about, again, I'm joking, that we talked about putting a unit so that you get a ladder and have an office up there. just in case, we need more office space, so up above, it would,
Time out for the pastor.
Yeah.
I'm in a retreat center.
So again, we're always in need of storage, and there could be a way of increasing the storage by making them larger, or taller, right, because it isn't space used.
And I think part of our conversation about that space was thinking about, okay, it is up high, so if you were to use it for storage, you don't want to have anything heavy that you got to get up there. How do you get it up there? Is it maybe some Christmas decorations you only use once a year? Maybe. But also just thinking you don't want it necessarily to be something that's a space that just collects dust up there. So.
Yes.
If you're taking down this temporary covering that's gonna be over the courtyard, where are you gonna put that? There's another storage problem.
Great question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I would say too, I would see that'd be something that could go up in the trusses in the garage.
Because it does, you think you could just
And
roll
roll
that
'em
up, Yeah.
There's space.
Yeah. Yes.
Might we get an architect's drawings for this enclosed, small church thing with the doors that come open? So that what's in there just draws you in something unique?
Oh, for the multipurpose room.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, again, we have just 2 samples, but I know, right, the idea of making that.
I'm thinking what you showed had just across,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't really draw me in.
Right.
And part of our conversation also was with Pastor Corey of what things should be included in that cabinet. And he was we have so many resources for retired pastors in this congregation. He was gonna have that conversation, with them, who knows better than them of what's needed. And then let's go ahead and start taking a look at design and what can we do to make that as attractive. I think even one of the things we talked about was, could there be panels inside that would coincide with the colored paraments at the altar for the seasons of the church here? Maybe.
And matching up, of course, wood tones best we could, because we was mentioned maybe the baptismal font, although we don't do many baptisms in there, but if we brought that in, what's its color, how's it match, and all those. So, right, we want it to look good. Like I said, look good closed, look good open, and both aspects.
And what's the advantage of having it closed?
Yeah, I agree. Why can't we just have it open?
Well, it's a multi-purpose room, so I think you want to have meetings there, classrooms there. I'm not sure I want people in that. Pardon me if I feel like it's sacred, sort of. It's kind of like, having classrooms up at the front of the sanctuary, we try not to do it. And so that'd be my only thought.
Well, and depending on what is stored in there.
Right.
Besides,
Yeah. But again, that's, you know, the idea of closing it up and making it so that it's not visible was something we were really thought was cool.
I think the other part of having that open or enclosed is it helps transform that space so that when you are wanting to get a more intimate setting for a funeral or a small wedding or even a baptism, that's just something, it's not every day that's always there. You open that up to help transform and make that space special.
So then on the inside of that you open up, could there be some sort of decoration kind of thing which adds to the attractiveness of, and spreads that, makes that wider area other than just wood?
Right.
Yeah, as I was talking with Elaine, you know, if that's something where, you know, on the insides, there's somewhere panels potentially for helping with paraments and staying with the church colors, many options available. And, you know, it's one of those things that I think in our conversation in the committee meeting with our guys that had the woodworking abilities in the church, basically they said, if you can draw it, we can make it. So.
Well, I can see having candles on
Right,
there and that,
right.
that you would want them protected also.
Right.
But that would add to the
Right.
ambiance of a worship center.
Exactly. Yes.
So with I haven't heard, so with taking out that wall over there where the bookshelves are in the
Yes.
fellowship hall, I haven't heard anything said about any other configuring of the library to accommodate for bookshelves
Right.
being gone, taken out.
Right. And we have talked about it, but
The best suggestion we have to this point is the area between the courtyard door and the hallway.
Yeah.
That could be a shelf floor to ceiling, and that would accommodate almost all those books.
right.
If necessary, we could build on the south wall where the coat rack is, but that would mean some removal of things that are already there. We'd have to redesign that.
We could remove 2,000 books from the pastor's library. I need those.
Here,
Oh.
hey, chemist needs a lab.
Need a lab.
Oh.
Other questions? Comments?
I have one.
Yes.
You keep talking about opening these doors up. Can you just show me, you're looking from here to here, from here to here?
Great question.
I think part of that is gonna
Yes.
require some help from our architects.
Right.
Just to understand structurally, you know, it just from my point of view, I would say we have this door, and then we have another door here.
Okay, I didn't know if you were planning on opening it up further. That's what my thought.
No, we wanna stay, we hopefully can use as much as possible, hoping to be able to use as much as possible the existing door opening that we have,
Right.
to try and reduce any extra work that has to be done for headers and that type of thing in the construction process. And the same with the door over there, you know, what do we need to do, you know, and even if we gotta slide a little bit one way or the other,
Yeah.
you know. But again, trying to make use of our, you know, the architect to help us understand, they have that expertise as well to help with making those details and making it happen. Yes.
And why does it have to be taller? I'm thinking when we worshiped in here, we had the doors, weren't they the same height as what's down there?
No.
Which are the same as that? Why does it have to go up higher?
Augie, those doors used to be 7 foot. They're out in the barn. We'll look at them someday.
So we talked about this in Buildings and Grounds Tuesday night, and for those that have been here long enough, I'm not one of those, that the original doors were 7 foot.
You were.
So, and the point of getting this space open more is to kind of help with making the
Yep.
people in the transfer more inviting,
Right.
so that we have a bigger space for coming and going between the library and here.
It's gonna be difficult to get that rocking motion on, recorded.
That's why I'm on this side of the camera.
The original
Sorry.
idea, the original idea was big archways. And after we talked to the architects, we realized that we are not artists, and archways are completely wrong for the structure and the feel of this building. Everything else in the entire building is rectangles. So our archway suggestion was shot down right away.
Jeff?
I think if you count that doorway, there's 5 blocks
Yes,
across
I'm
the
just-
top. So if you count 5 blocks over, and you see where that is, and if you're talking about making it taller,
Yeah, that
you
really
can
opens.
see how much opener that's
Right.
gonna make that.
Is opener a word? I think it is. I think it is.
Can opener, yeah.
Can opener.
Adult beverage opener.
I really should turn the camera on. Kevin's standing.
Another term for which is
Church key.
Oh, there you go.
Will that other door be the same?
Yes. Yes. Yep. Again, just wider, taller, right.
Have the architects looked at that one, how they're gonna do that?
They have looked at it. Yes.
They say it's possible.
Yeah. Again,
I think it'd look better if we just came over to the wall or door and closed that off,
Oh,
and
good.
made windows there like the others are.
mhm.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. Did you write that down?
Well,
Thank you. Questions, comments? Again, we want you to become more and more comfortable with what we're suggesting, so we can, again, vote on this in 2 weeks.
So do you have an idea what the cost of this is all gonna be?
We
We've
do.
not talked cost of
We
that.
do. We do. We do. And the number that I believe is real close is $400,000. Yes.
I heard you have some raised today.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Yes.
share what that is?
Yes, 120, am I close, Pastor? I think it's 120,
Assuming the last gift, yeah.
yeah, so 120. So with, a couple of trust fund grants, and then also one of the previous members gave money from when they passed away, so, yeah. We're getting there.
Is that including our, what, there was a building fund or?
No,
No,
no, it does not.
okay, this is,
No, the building fund still has 90,000 in it, right? And so it's a group we'd like to try to raise and keep that, so that if the couple of air conditioners went out, we have better access to money for emergencies than planned events. So, questions?
I think it sounds like a great idea.
Michael?
Well, I think here again, we need to emphasize that we need to talk to other people and emphasize the fact that we're gonna vote on this package. We're not gonna discuss different ideas and that. The ideas need to be presented here and now or before the meeting and that. And yes, I think I commend the committee on all their diligent work and what they've done. I think they've done a good job up to this point.
Jim?
Hearing problems. I think you said 400,000?
Yes. And
Ten
again,
percent of that is supposed to be for outsider congregations, so 40,000. What is the plan for that if we're gonna do that in the capital campaign?
so again, I think, just like Kevin said, we have people who know more about that than I do. What we're probably going to do is we're gonna talk with Mission Outreach, and we're gonna partner in terms of not only just somebody that needs that money, but maybe somebody who's in the process of building. So that's what we're doing, and we would hope we would help with their next chapter of their growth. And so again, that's, you know, and the number come out of tithing. So again, if we just use, you know, 10%, it's approximately $40,000. Yes.
Did we not get help when we built this church?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
That's my
And
understanding.
that's what I think, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and again, kind of, what we get, we give back, and so that's neat, that's just neat. Yeah, yep. Questions? And we're not trying to, you know, hide how much we're spending, we want you to know. It's just, I would hope that you would fall in love with these projects and want them and need them, and that's just like a lot of things, the money isn't the first thing. It's really about what we're trying to do, and it's, you know, many times talk to the committee level, it's about what can we do for our members and what can we do for prospective members. Because obviously we want to attract, we want to be attractive to the community. And so again, our facility and ourselves, you know, so we're, you know, creating atmospheres where when we have a social time that we're not sitting around a table with our backs, that hopefully we're inviting, you know, people to come in and hear about what they're doing and what's going on in their lives. So that's what's important. Yes.
So when we did the kitchen, we had a 3-year capital campaign. Is that kind of similar to what we're thinking? Because we really paid that off kind of in 3 years for people that, you know, did their pledges. Is that kind of what we're thinking?
We're trying to copy, I mean, we're trying to mimic that. Yes, yes, 3 years. Yes, so that people in their heart want to make a sizable contribution, and they can do so over several years. And so, yes.
Do you think this one time, when we vote the end of October, will be enough to educate the congregation? I know they're supposed to come into here, but is that enough?
It's great.
What is the vote? How much do you have to have in order for it to pass?
What's the percent, or?
I think by constitution, we have to have a majority of the people present to go forward. But,
People present.
yeah, quorum is 50. But realistically, if we don't have a large portion of the congregation behind it, it doesn't make any sense to go forward. I mean, if we can't, I mean, if we get 51%, if we get 50 people there, and 26 of them vote to say yes, and 12 of them give money, we can't do it. So there's the legal answer, and then there's the congregational answer, which is we really want, what we really need is for the whole congregation to be behind it. And whether that happens immediately or it takes more time, we'll continue to educate people.
Yeah, so if the vote fails, then we have to continue educating.
Right.
Correct. Correct. And you know, as I see it, unfortunately, the campaign to contribute turns into educational process also, discussing, you know, what are these items that we've gone through and what are they for? So again, it isn't just a request for money, request for projects.
Yeah.
So that's the hope.
But the longer you wait, the more expensive it's gonna be,
Correct.
and that has to be brought out too.
Right. Right.
The supplies are-
I mean, I think what you're saying is the vast majority of the people that have been here every week.
Right.
Yeah. And
So
where's the other
how do you
people?
reach the rest of the people is what you're
Right.
saying.
Right.
Well, we did have,
Might have to have a circle.
we did have,
I mean, it's been, it was in the newsletter, the basics of it, online, it was, and we sent a letter directly. So, it's not that we haven't tried.
Right,
And-
But you're right, Elaine, this is gonna be an ongoing effort, it has to be.
and that's what I was gonna reference also was Wednesday night when Audrey Cherry came to ask questions, she had the letter that was sent out to everybody. So it's, the message is getting out there. You know, if we can use it would have been, these types of formats would have been much, much better, agreeable for getting all the information out. But, you know, we do what we can and keep trying.
Yes.
Can we do table talks the next couple of weeks so that the people that are watching online
That's
can
great.
also get the information?
Yeah.
We get 90 seconds, 2
Yep.
minutes.
Well, I guess you gotta do that then.
Whoa.
I don't think I can get mine in 90 seconds.
Not a big
Now with the arm movement.
And the rocking.
Rock.
And these sessions are being posted. So if you know
Recorded.
somebody that's interested, they can get on our
Except the
website,
first
and they
one,
can- on
right.
YouTube, and they can pull up this conversation.
This conversation.
Yes. You didn't know you were on TV.
Oh, my. I should have kept my mouth.
Oh.
Absentee ballots.
That's, by constitution, that's not allowed. You have to be in person.
I think one of your problems is getting people to come back at 11 o'clock. I really think that's a problem. It should be at least 10:30. So people will stay for that half hour, they won't stay for an hour.
It is a
And
long
we'll
time.
make sure we have coffee.
It is a long time.
No, I think.
I think that too.
Yeah.
It should have been right after I
It should have been, it
rather
should have been
than
at 10 o'clock.
on the same day as confirmation.
That horse is out of the barn.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I know, and it's too bad.
Can we come in later to vote, or we have to be at that meeting to vote?
You have to be present at the meeting.
Mhm.
We have to have
Part of the
50 people.
quorum.
Questions? Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time in helping us, and again, trying to make this a better and better project for Redeemer. So, thank you very much.